Have you ever truly stopped to wonder what happens to a narcissist as they grow older? We see them in their prime, confident, powerful, mesmerizing, the person who seems to own every room they walk into. But what happens when that initial shine begins to fade? When the smooth charm starts to fail? When the physical looks that were so crucial to their power begin to slip away? And when the commanding presence that once defined them can no longer hold the same authority? What exactly is left when the stage lights dim for good? You see, narcissists spend their entire panicked lives hiding behind a mask, a facade of perfect strength, total control, and clear superiority. This mask is not just a habit, it is their survival mechanism, the only self they believe they have. They are terrified that the world will see the true, weak self hiding beneath the surface. They believe that if the world stops admiring them, they will simply cease to exist as a person of value. But time, that great and uncaring force, has a way of stripping away all illusions, no matter how carefully constructed. And for a narcissist, aging isn't just a simple physical process like getting gray hair. It is a slow, painful, and terrifying emotional unraveling that threatens to reveal everything they have desperately tried to hide. It is the moment their life's greatest trick starts to fail. In this deep, honest talk, we're going to dive right into the deepest fear of the narcissistic personality. We'll study exactly how age exposes the crushing truth behind the mask, how the perfect image they spent a lifetime protecting begins to crumble and collapse, and what terrifying emptiness lies beneath that carefully maintained facade. This is about seeing the predictable failure of a life built on lies. This is about finding clarity, not vengeance. So stay with me until the very end of this video, because once you truly see the cold, hard reality of what really happens to them as they age and lose their power, you will gain an understanding, a final absolute peace that will change how you look at the narcissist in your life forever. This is the truth that sets the survivor free. When a narcissist is young, their mask is not only whole, it's nearly flawless, it's shiny new, and strong enough to fool everyone. They use their natural charm, their physical appearance, and their overflowing fake confidence like weapons to control how the entire world sees them. Think about it. They might be the charismatic, unforgettable coworker who climbs the ladder instantly, the magnetic and exciting lover who sweeps people off their feet, or the confident, unwavering leader who demands loyalty without giving anything real back. They are, for a time, fully able to command the attention of everyone around them, and this attention is their fuel. They feed on admiration and attention, what psychologists clinically call narcissistic supply. This supply can be any form of attention, huge praise, intense fear, constant pity, or even hateful dramatic focus. And in their younger years, supply is everywhere, abundant, and easy to find. The world is built to reward youth, beauty, and loud confidence, and they exploit every one of those systems. People are constantly drawn to them like a moth to a flame, mistaking their loud ego for true self-assurance. They can manipulate easily, switching their moods and stories to fit any situation. Their fragile ego stays fed, fully inflated, and completely safe from the truth. But here is the central, fatal flaw. The biggest secret: their mask isn't built on genuine, solid confidence. It's built on external validation, meaning their value is completely outside of themselves, relying only on other people's temporary feelings, and anything that relies on other people is fragile, unstable, and can be taken away. This reliance on the outside world makes their entire personality a house of cards. They look unstoppable when praised, yet completely unravel in a public tantrum the moment they are criticized, ignored, or exposed. That moment of anger is the mask slipping, a crack appearing in the beautiful image. Aging, silently and surely, accelerates that whole painful process by reducing their ability to easily command that precious supply. As narcissists push past their vibrant early prime and reach middle age, something crucial and subtle begins to happen. Their natural ability to maintain the perfect illusion starts to weaken, like a tight rope slowly fraying. The charm they used to rely on no longer works instantly or effortlessly on new people. They are no longer the freshest, newest thing in the room. Younger, more energetic people start to emerge, competing for the same spotlights and the same attention. More painfully, the people who were once completely under their spell, the partners, friends, and colleagues, start to see patterns in their cruel manipulation. The emotional cost of dealing with them finally starts to outweigh the brief feeling of flattery or excitement the narcissist once provided. Psychologists often describe this turbulent stage as narcissistic depletion, a period when their emotional resources run very low and the constant desperate search for supply becomes truly exhausting and much less rewarding. The well of easy attention starts to run dry. The huge effort required to look youthful, stay powerful, and keep the lies straight becomes too much for their aging minds to handle. They begin to panic. They feel the ground beneath their carefully constructed world start to shake. In a frantic attempt to stabilize themselves, they might try to reinvent their entire life, pursuing new relationships that are often inappropriate for their age, starting new careers they are unqualified for, or inventing huge, wild, new stories of success to keep the spotlight firmly fixed on them. They need to prove, desperately, that they are still relevant. But inside, something crucial is breaking. The years of constantly running from their true selves catch up. Without that easy, constant validation, the narcissist begins to feel the first cold touch of an unbearable emptiness. The void they have always carried inside, usually covered by the noise of constant attention, now starts to resonate loudly. Instead of facing this deep, painful emptiness and taking responsibility for their past actions, they always double down on the lie. They become more aggressive, more desperate, lying bigger, exaggerating their status, or lashing out at anyone who points out their flaws. This is a defensive, panicked reaction to pure, internal terror. Have you ever seen a narcissist in their 40s or 50s who becomes suddenly and strangely obsessed with appearing successful, youthful, or desperately relevant to younger generations, maybe through social media or reckless behavior? That is not personal growth or true vitality. That is pure fear. It is a clear symptom of the depletion they are feeling. They are trying to physically or socially force the world to give them the validation they used to get easily. They sense the mask slipping away, and the panic of exposure is turning into an ugly external rage directed at anyone nearby. As the narcissist enters their later years, the perfect illusion they once maintained becomes completely impossible to sustain. There is no longer any hope of easily regaining their former glory. The physical looks that were their primary tool fade completely. Their professional and social influence declines rapidly as they are replaced by new talent. Most importantly, their reliable supply sources, the partners, children, and friends they once controlled, finally develop strong, healthy boundaries or simply move on and cut contact. Tired of the decades of abuse, they are left standing alone in a deserted field, and with every single loss, a large, crucial piece of their false identity fades away, never to return. Psychologists call this final, terrible stage narcissistic collapse, the moment when cold, hard reality finally fully catches up to the total fantasy they've built their entire existence upon. It is a painful, inevitable confrontation with the unbearable truth they have spent a lifetime running from. The external world, their only source of self-esteem, has gone silent. Without the constant, powerful attention they relied on, they feel totally invisible. They are forced to live in a world where they are just another person, not the star. Without the power to manipulate and control others, they feel completely worthless. Their mind cannot process the idea of being ordinary, and without their familiar mask, they feel terrifyingly exposed. The collapse is physical, mental, and emotional. This collapse forces them to react violently. They might become deeply bitter, overwhelmingly cynical, and constantly, non-stop angry, attacking others for simply changing, or for what they call betraying them, by refusing to serve the needs of their ego anymore. But in reality, they are facing the one constant thing they have always feared the most, their own fundamental emptiness. The void they kept hidden is now all they have left. Let me ask you this, as a survivor, as someone who has witnessed this process, have you ever seen a narcissist in their later years suddenly start to play the victim, claiming loudly and angrily that everyone has wrongly and unfairly abandoned them. That is not because people spontaneously turned on them or started hating them. It's because their mask finally broke into pieces, the performance failed, and no one believes the lie anymore. The silence they now feel is the world's final quiet judgment on a lifetime of selfish behavior. As the years continue to accumulate, the narcissist is forced to face something they have spent their entire existence trying to outrun themselves. The inability to be alone with their own thoughts is their greatest weakness. Without people to constantly mirror their supposed greatness back to them, they begin to feel the deep, empty void that has always existed within their core. They feel the panic of true, deep, existential loneliness. And since narcissists lack the basic skills for emotional regulation, they never learned how to manage difficult, adult feelings. They simply don't know how to sit quietly with the pain, the shame, or the deep regret that now washes over them. So, what is the result of this internal, silent crisis? They become completely dangerously emotionally volatile. Some narcissists spiral rapidly into intense depression, overwhelming anxiety, or even total psychological breakdown, because the ego's defense mechanisms fail. Others become increasingly reclusive or openly paranoid, living in a constant state of fear, believing that everyone who left them has now teamed up and is actively plotting against them. They create wild conspiracies to explain why their life failed, rather than accepting their own responsibility. Psychologists have clearly observed that older narcissists often struggle with a non-stop consuming rage and deep resentment, directed not just at the people who left, but toward time itself. They feel deeply betrayed by the natural process of aging, as if life has wrongly and unfairly taken away the power and special status they truly believe they deserve as their absolute birthright. They rage against the unfairness of not being young forever. And here is where the ultimate irony of their life becomes clear. All the people they once hurt, brutally manipulated, or controlled, the victims who bore the brunt of their early power, have, by walking away and choosing themselves, found peace without them. The survivors are healing and thriving. The narcissist, however, is left to slowly rot in a self-made prison of bitterness. Have you ever wondered what happens when a narcissist has no one left to control? The energy that once flowed outward, dominating others, now turns violently inward. They become their own victim and their own executioner. They are forced to confront the truth they have spent every single day of their life denying. They were never truly in control of anything except their own delusion. They were never whole. They were always just a frightened, small child trying to sound big. Here's the part most people never fully grasp. The truth that brings the most emotional freedom beneath the narcissist's flawless mask lies crippling deep insecurity and fundamental, paralyzing fear. This is the truth of their wound. It is the deep-seated fear of being completely unlovable. It is the gut-wrenching fear of being insignificant, unimportant, and simply ordinary. It is the consuming fear of being completely, permanently forgotten. As they age, those core fears can no longer be hidden away behind the temporary shields of success, high status, or attractive appearance. Their charm is gone, their status is depleted, and the mirror is unforgiving. The mask, which was once their greatest protection against reality, slowly turns into a lonely prison. The only way out is genuine change, and that path is blocked by their pride. The older narcissist becomes haunted by what they've lost. Not just the physical looks or the job titles, but the opportunities for genuine unconditional love and real deep human connection they threw away for a feeling of power. They look back on the wreckage and realize that the high price of the temporary power they chased was the absolute permanent loss of peace. They have no one to share their true self with, because they have no true self left. But even then, when the collapse is imminent and the emptiness is screaming, their overwhelming pride rarely lets them admit it. They cannot speak the simple truth. Instead, they cling to the only defense they have left: denial. They spend their final years rewriting their past, painting themselves loudly as the misunderstood, virtuous hero of their own tragic story. They were betrayed, they were wronged, they were never appreciated. But the final, crushing truth remains. Age exposes what time cannot hide: authenticity. And for a narcissist, authenticity is the one terrifying thing they have never possessed. And now it's too late to build it. If you've ever been hurt, used, or emotionally broken by a narcissist, please understand this fundamental freeing principle. They may seem untouchable now. They may appear today as confident, powerful, or still adored by their current victims. But you must never forget this. Time is the great equalizer of every human life, because no mask survives forever. The law of the universe is that all illusions must eventually end. Every lie they told, every manipulation they ran, every single performance they forced upon the world, it all eventually collapses under the simple, uncaring weight of the truth. And when that huge collapse finally happens, the narcissist is left with the one thing they have successfully avoided their entire life: the cold, raw realization of themselves. They are finally alone with their void. You, on the other hand, have something precious that they will never possess: the beautiful, strong ability to heal. You have the courage to grow from pain. You have the capacity to love honestly and deeply. And you have the willingness to be real, to be flawed, and to be loved for the imperfections you carry. You are alive. They are trapped. So, ask yourself this final, important question. Do you really need their apology, their recognition, or their confession to heal? Or is the simple, honest, cold truth, knowing the inevitable, crushing fate that is coming for them, enough closure for you to finally walk away and never look back? In the end, age strips the mask from every narcissist. What they once used to impress, to control, to dominate others, their physical looks, their shallow charm, their forced confidence, all of it completely fades away. And beneath it all lies the clear, undeniable truth they can no longer hide: emptiness. They never built anything real inside, and now they have nothing. The narcissist story is a tragic, repetitive one, of endless, empty illusion. But yours, the story you write next, can be one of ultimate, absolute, and joyous freedom. If this video gave you clear insight, deep comfort, or the final strength you needed to claim your freedom, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because someone out there who is still trapped in a narcissistic relationship desperately needs to hear this empowering, saving truth. We must spread the light. And always, always remember this final crucial truth: empathy is not weakness. It is your greatest, most powerful, most human strength. It is the one thing that time will never be able to take from you. It is the ability that allows you to connect, to forgive, and to heal the very quality they willingly and sickly destroyed inside themselves. They lost their chance at a peaceful, meaningful life because they lacked it. You found your peace and built your beautiful future because you bravely and constantly grew it. Stay aware, stay sure of your truth, and stay absolutely, forever free.